The communication between you and your partner is like a smooth piece of rope between you. When you're having a good conversation, when you're communicating well between each other, that rope is smooth. But then something happens when you're communicating to each other. A disagreement appears, something happens in the communication, and all of a sudden, the rope gets tense. And as that tension increases, all of a sudden, there's a big knot in the middle of that rope. Now this knot represents the argument and the fight that you're in. And of course, this knot gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And then what couples do is they just get involved in the knot. You actually become the knot. The drama begins, the yelling begins, the vulgarity begins, and this knot gets worse and worse and worse. If you've ever set out for a run or a jog or even a walk, and you went down to tie your shoelaces and you saw that knot in your shoelace, and you were determined to get that knot out of that shoelace, but it was so tight you got irritated and you just said, screw it. That's what happens with couples that argue. They get involved in the knot, they can't get the knot undone, they think they're right, one thinks they're wrong, that knot does not resolve, so the couples just end up saying, screw it. Now here's a little bit of magic for you. It's often overlooked, but the only way you could get into that knot is through the communication, which is the rope. If there's no rope, there's no knot. The rope represents your communication with each other. You got into the knot through communication. The only way out of that knot is through communication. But just like your shoelace, you're going to need to get down and take a look at the knot. You're going to have patience. You're going to have to look at it and see, how did it get this tight? You're going to need to work with your partner. One of you looking at one piece of the rope and the other looking at the other side. If you really communicate one with another and you realize that the only way that knot got there was through both of you communicating, and you both work together little by little, just like you would with a shoelace, you can undo that knot, and then you'll be free from whatever it was that led you into that argument and chaos. The problem that most couples have is that they're so involved in being right. They're so involved in the fact that they don't have any responsibility for that knot, that it's always the other person. Well, of course then, the knot, the argument, will stay an argument. One last thing, if you were to take an actual piece of rope and tie it into a knot and film it in slow motion, you would be able to go back and frame by frame see how the knot was formed. Listen, it's no different with couples. If you were to video record your conversation and communication with your spouse or partner, and you did that in slow motion, and then you rewound the video to the exact point where the argument and the fight occurred, you would be able to see exactly right there where you went off the rails. And then you could actually, by the use of communication alone, resolve any conflict or problem that you had between you and your partner. The simple truth is, you got into the argument with communication. You can get out of the argument with communication. All right, over to you.